Hi guys, it's Chris here from SomeBloke who travels a lot, and today I'm back with RyanAir after nearly a 10-year gap. Now, I make no bones about it, I'm not a fan of RyanAir, but equally, I'm not a snob. You can go places and pay prices that other airlines can't offer. You can, of course, have disasters with RyanAir, but that is for part 2 of this series, coming next week. You might want to subscribe for that one and ring the bell, as it's a humdinger of a trip. But today, we're having a lovely time, where everything goes right, and it started well. I'd booked Fast Track for £5, as I was aware of the horror stories at Manchester Airport security, and it ended up probably saving me about a minute a pound. So if you're keeping this ticket to the bare minimum, I'd skip that. As you can see, I didn't skip the window seat, which cost me an extra £6, but I did book a row at the back, 28F, just a few forward from the very back of the plane. And I often find these seats are not very popular, and you've much more chance of a row to yourself, as I had here. So from a £10 fare each way, I bumped it up to £39 for return to Bezier. But why Bezier? I know £10 is a bargain for a flight, but what's at the end of it? Well, sit back and I'm going to show you how you can have the most delightful short break in the south of France for about £100 for two. As you can see, we're retreating to the classic RyanAir landing. You can also see that Bezier is a very quiet airport. Now, if you haven't arranged transfers or a local taxi, you will need the bus. There are 2 of them waiting for each flight outside the terminal. One to the coast and the seaside town of Agde. More on Agde next week. And the other to the centre of Bezier. The fare, whichever route you take, is €2, and there's no tapping, so make sure you have enough cash for everyone. The bus will drop you off at Bezier train station, and for me that was an easy walk to my hotel. But there's also a taxi rank at the station if you don't fancy carrying your luggage through Bezier. Might not look the most glamorous of locations, but in fact it was very good. Turn left to the arena, and turn right and stroll up the street and you're in Beziers proper. Now, Ibis budget hotels are exactly what they say on the tin, an international brand hotel at, well, a budget price. I was happy with my choice at under £70 for the 2 nights, but it might not be for you. So I've also listed some other hotel suggestions and their locations and prices in the description below. I turned left, not a phrase often used in a RyanAir video. I went to have a mooch of the arena. Slightly confusing, as in some ways it looks very old, but in fact it's just old. Built in 1897 and described as the new arena, it's still very much in use, and next time I visit Bezier I'll be timing it with an event at the arena. Now this is what we come to France for. A little mooch round a flower market in the sun. Now markets abound in Beziers. I stumbled upon this one just as it was closing. Just remember, French markets are for the early bird, so skip breakfast at the hotel and have breakfast at the market. And if you are planning on returning with an abundance of French cheeses, meats and other goodies, then you do need a stop at Les Halles de Beziers, the Halls of Beziers, which unfortunately I'm going to have to speed up in this video. And it's not just cheese. Inside you have everything. Boucherie, boulangerie, patisserie, candlestick makery. It's an amazing visit. Even if you're not buying anything, just go and have a look. I think it's a wonderful French market. It's full on and you've got everything. So yeah, like I said, I think I'm going to have to speed this stroll up a little bit to fit it in the video. Not just markets they do well in Beziers, they do a good fountain, and I do like a good fountain. This was my favourite in Beziers, on the Place Jean Jaurès, square in the centre of Beziers. And apparently it's stunning at night, all lit up with music playing, but it was delightful during the day, with a little people watching thrown in for good measure. The only decision I had to make was which cake with my coffee. The best thing is, you don't have to feel guilty about eating cake in Beziers. It is in fact officially a 0-calorie cake zone. Well, it is if you climb to the top of the bell tower at Beziers Cathedral. So that is exactly what I did next. Now, if your legs aren't into the climb to the top, don't worry, the views from the ground are pretty wonderful too. But, as out of shape as I am, I decided I was going to the top. Now, have you seen the Colin Farrell film in Bruges? Yep, it was a bit like that.
is a sight for sore eyes. Oh, well, that was worth it.
Now that is the River Orb, which a little out of shot is crossed by the Canal de Midi and the Font-Solens locks, which is our next port of call. But I think lunch first, and I spotted the perfect place on the way to the cathedral. I mean, is it possible to get more French? Gizzards to start, and a pork kebab for me, and I was then fortified for the afternoon. No pudding, of course. I'm on a diet now. It's time to get fit after that bell tower climb. There are buses and Ubers from the centre of Beziers to the locks, but if you just walk down the hill from the cathedral, you end up at the river. And it was a wonderful walk until you meet the Canal de Midi. And if you get the weather like I did, this was in May, it makes a wonderful afternoon. And again, if you don't fancy the walk, there's a little train that goes from the bottom to the top. I think it goes from the top to the bottom as well. And once at the top, you're going to want to stop here. Wasn't cheap, but the views make up for it. And I would recommend going to the back terrace, which was empty for some reason, for a totally tranquil view across the valley. Now Beziers have very much the feel of a town, but it is a city. In fact, it's one of the oldest cities in France, founded by the Greeks in the 6th century BC. But it means as a city, it has city things, a theatre, a cinema, lots of shops. And as it's a French city, of course, a Galerie Lafayette. But this is much more me. Wandering around the small streets, no particular itinerary, maybe a coffee, a glass of wine, perhaps a small piece of cake. It seems such a shame to speed this up, but I'm running out of time. You can certainly see there's plenty to do in Beziers on a short break, and I can't fit it all in. And I've got a plane crash to tell you about in a minute. Oh, that woke you up, didn't it? My flight didn't leave till 5 PM, so I had plenty of time for more exploring, and of course a final French lunch. Now, this was on the main square, so it was a little bit more touristy, a little more expensive than yesterday's lunch, but the mussels were fresh, and the people watching was excellent. And then, it was time to walk down the hill to Beziers train station, and wait for the bus. I had 20 minutes or so to wait for the bus, so I went and had a mooch on the platform, and this train here will take you to Agde, the town on the coast, and it's only about 15 minutes on the train, so if you've more than a few days, I recommend at least a day trip to Agde. which I will show you more about in the next video. Now, where's my bus? Now, the bus did arrive, and when the bus did arrive, the driver said there was no point going to the airport as there'd been a crash, and there's no way we would be flying. I don't think Michael O'Leary got the memo, as a quick look on flight radar showed our RyanAir flight was still en route and had not turned around. So we convinced the bus driver we wanted to go, and she agreed, but she refused to charge us as she thought we were wasting our time. Now, most of us knew a little thing like a plane crash wasn't going to stop a RyanAir flight. Now, I'm only making light of this as no one was hurt, and it was a bit of a bump between two light aircraft, but there had been a fuel leak. So when we arrived, the fire trucks were busy spraying foam on the runway. Now, eventually they'd either run out of foam or sprayed enough for it to be safe for us to board our flight back to Manchester. Again, I'd picked a row near the back, and although I didn't get the full row to begin with, at first the aisle seat passenger was there with me for takeoff, but after takeoff he went and sat with his friend as there were plenty of seats at the back, so I did have the full 3 seats for the rest of the flight. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please do give it a thumbs up. Those likes are most appreciated. As you know, this video is £10 RyanAir to Bezier when it all went right. Next week is £10 RyanAir to Bezier when it all went wrong. You don't want to miss that. It's RyanAir being RyanAir and me ending up with an afternoon I will never forget. It's worth subscribing and ringing the bell just for that one. However, it was only RyanAir that went wrong. Agda was wonderful and well worth the visit, but find out for yourself in the next videos. Thank you so much for watching and happy travels.